All right, we'll get started. What we're going to do today is just review the problems from chapter 8, and then we'll review for the exam. I updated somebody told me in the last class that the link to the video in chapter 8 wasn't working. So I double checked on that. I don't know what was going on there, but it wasn't working. So I updated the videos for chapter 8. I think that video was one video that covered the whole chapter. And so what I did is I put videos in there. The videos in chapter 8 now are kind of broken in by section. So you don't have to watch the whole hour and 15-minute session. You should be able to watch just a section. If you need some clarification on one topic, you can watch just that topic. And most of those videos are like 5 to 7 minutes long. I am videoing this review session because a student asked me to earlier. And so I'll video this class and then try to get that into the videos for chapter 8 after my next class. So hopefully by the end of the day, that'll be in there for you guys if you want that too. So before we get going, any questions on anything in chapter 8? Did they go well, or how did they go? How many of you did them? Let me ask that. How many did? A few of you?
Yeah.
What was that? Go ahead.
I was saying all of them are pretty self-explanatory for the most part. Mine is like 15. I ended up getting it right, but definitely wouldn't mind going over that one again.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go over 15. We'll probably do 16 and 17. And I know I didn't give those to you, but I just want to see how you guys are thinking. Okay. And we'll do that. So I will tell you, one of my classes didn't do them at all. I could tell everybody was just writing. Okay. And I asked them, and a few of them admitted, no, we didn't do them. And guys, I don't give these to you because I'm bored or I think you guys are bored. I give them to you to make sure you understand the material so that, like today, when we're going over it, if you have questions, let's go over it rather than, let's face it, I know how to do the problems. I've done them repeatedly and done them for a number of years. So I can go through them pretty quick. And sometimes I might forget what it's like to be new at it. And so that's why I want you guys to do it ahead of time. So if there's questions or we need clarification on certain points, if you're sitting here watching me do it while I go through it, yeah, it all makes sense and things, but I'm not going to be there for the exam Thursday. So you got to be able to do it on your own and think about it and think through it on your own. So that's why I give these to you, okay? So Omar, I know you said like 15 or something. We'll get to that one, okay? Don't sweat it. I'm going to start at the beginning. So we are on page 265. Okay, we'll just start at the first one and work our way through. And if you have questions, make sure you stop me and ask for clarification, okay? So this wardrobe company just paid a dividend of $2.15. Which dividend is that? D what?
That's D0, right?
Yes, Kayla, that is D0, okay? So D0, the dividends are expected to grow at a constant 4%, okay? So when we hear constant, we know we can use the dividend growth model there. Investors want a return of 10.5% on the stock, okay? So they want to know what's the current price and what will the price be in 3 years and 15 years. So we're looking for PO. We know PO equals D1 over R minus G, but we don't have D1. But we know D1 equals D0 times 1 plus G, okay? So then we got to plug all this in. Okay, so what is our current price of the stock?
We got 34.4.
Yes, Hector, 34.40, right? Okay, so that is our current price. Then it says, well, what is the price in year 3? Now, there's a couple ways you can go about doing this. We can use our base equation here and understand that the price in year 3, we would need D4, and we just divide it by R minus G, okay? We could do it that way. Quite honestly, folks, I don't like doing it that way, mainly because since we're given D0, we know D4 is 1 plus G to the 4th, okay? And I don't like it because of the exponents. If I have D1, then I need the exponents 3. You know, that to me gets so confusing. So what I'm going to do is I just use my time value money. I know it's going to grow at 4%. The current price is $34.40, and I'm going to figure the price out in year 3. Okay, that way my calculator is doing all the work. I think it's easier to do. So what do we get for a price in year 3? Did anybody get that?
38.
Who, go ahead. A couple of you jumped in. Omar and one of the ladies, I didn't catch who did that.
I agreed with Omar. I think he said 38.70.
Okay. 38.70, okay. And then it said for year 15, and again, you just change the 3 to 15, and you get 61.95, okay? Is everybody good there? Any questions? All right. Let's move on to number 2 then. On the second one, the next dividend by Zabbix will be 234. So which D do we have there? D what?
D1.
D1, yes, Caleb. Okay. So we have D1. The dividends are going to maintain a growth of 4.5%. And the stock currently sells for $37. So P0 is 37. Okay, they want to know what is R. So with the required rate of return, we know that's D1 over PO plus G. Okay, so the D1 over PO, what is this called?
Dividend yield.
Yes, that's the dividend yield, right? Okay, and then the G, what is this one?
That is a capital gains yield.
Capital gain yield. Okay. So we know that our total return is made up of 2 components, right? So we have D1, we have the price, we got everything we need, we just got to plug it in here. So our total return then is what?
Got 6.32%.
Okay, Hector got 6.32. Hector, did you remember that you had to add the growth to that, right? To get total return.
Oh wait, I was answering the wrong question. I got 10.82%.
Yes, 10.82%. And then question 3 leads to this question, and it says, what's your dividend yield? Hector, now go ahead. You were a little ahead of me there. So our dividend yield is what?
6.32%.
6.32%. And then the capital gains yield, obviously, is 4.5%. Okay. Everybody good? Does that make sense? All right. Moving on. Okay, let's look at number 4. So on 4, Hudson will pay a dividend of $3.28 per share next year. So $3.28 we have as D what?
D1.
D1. Okay, so we have D1. The company pledges to increase the dividend by 3.7%, 3.75%, I'm sorry. And we want a total return of 10%. Okay. How much will you pay for the company stock today? So again, we're looking for price. Okay. So 328 divided by Okay, so what's our current price here?
I got 52.48.
There you go, Kaylee, 52.48. Okay, everybody good there? Pretty much didn't have to do anything. We gave you the variables. They were what they were. Just plug them into the equation. Okay. Okay. Number 5, we have they want to maintain a constant growth of 3.7%. Okay. Company has a dividend yield of 5.6%. And they want to know what is R. So R is what? 9.3. All you have to do is add them together, right? Everybody good there? Okay. So 6. We know the company's stock is currently selling for $74. So we got PO, current price, $74. The required return on the stock is 10.6%. We also know that the total return on the stock is evenly divided between capital gains yield and dividend yield. And the company is always going to maintain a constant growth rate. What is the current dividend? So we are looking for D0 in this problem. So how are we going to go about getting D0 here? What else do we know about this company and their dividends? Do we know anything else?
Well, we have to
Yes.
solve for D1 first, right?
Yes, we have to solve for D1.
Yeah, we know that the growth rate is 5.3% because it's evenly divided. Or what is it? Both yields are evenly divided. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we know. Okay, so we got to solve for D1, right? We know our dividend yield equals D1 over PO. So we know that 0.053 has got to equal D1 over 74. So that's how we can get D1, right, Omar? And what do we get for D1 there? What did you get?
392.
Okay, 3.92. Is that what we're looking for now? No.
Nope.
We're looking for D0. So we know that D1 equals D0 times 1 plus G. So 3.92 equals D0 times 1.053. So D0 then equals what?
372.
372. Okay. And that is what we're looking for. So that's one of the things you got to pay attention to on your exam, making sure you solve for the correct dividend. Okay. Is everybody good there?
I just want to clarify. So we found D0 because it asked what is the current dividend, right? That's
Yes.
like, okay.
Yes, exactly right, Katie. Good job. Okay, everybody good? Any questions? Anything else there?
Yeah, sorry. So someone was asking me a question halfway through. How did you find the I guess the div yield? Like, how did you find D1 to know that 0.053 is the div yield?
Okay. Omar, you want to explain that again?
Yeah. So let's see. Where did it say it in the problem? Yeah. So
Because we know that
yeah,
the total return,
total return on the stock is evenly divided between a capital gains and a dividend yield. So we know that R equals 10.6, and since it said it's evenly divided between both, we know that the div yield is 10.6 divided by 2, along with the capital gains, which will be 10.6 over 2, which equals 5.3%.
Okay, and so then you just took the 5.3% and divided it by 74.
yep,
Okay.
Multiplied it.
yeah, multiply.
Yeah, that you can do it that way. I guess I probably did it. I never thought about doing it that way. It's a lot faster. I actually just did it with the whole equation. So I did 74 equals D1 over 0.106 minus 0.053. But I mean, you'll get the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you get the same thing. This is just a shorter way to do it. Matt, did that help you out? Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Good, good. All right. So that was 6. Let's look at 7. Okay. So we have a company that pays a constant $8.25 dividend on its stock. The company will maintain this dividend for 13 years and will cease paying dividends forever. If the required return is 11.2%, what's the current price? How did this problem go for you guys?
I was confused on this problem.
Okay, Bethany, you're shaking your head. Why were you shaking your head? What are you shaking your head for?
I was confused too. I have a
Okay.
star beside this problem.
All right, Kaylee, what was confusing for you?
I'm just looking back on it, and all I have written down is PO equals D1 over R minus G, and then I honestly just kind of skipped over that one because I went back to it. And I think the confusing thing for me is just the fact that it says for the next 13 years, and then we'll cease paying dividends forever.
Okay,
So I just didn't know what to do about that.
So,
okay,
so I was initially confused, and I was like, you know what? I'll come back to it later. And then I was, as everybody else is doing, we're overcomplicating it. And it's so what else gives you a specific unchanging price at a specific time for only a certain amount of time? And that's an annuity, right?
there you go, Omar. That's what I was looking for. So Bethany, Kaylee, what you have, remember, okay, you guys have learned a bunch of stuff. Just because we're dealing with stocks, don't take what you've learned and dump it out of your head and think, okay, I don't have PO, I don't have D1, I don't have R, I don't have G, I don't know what the heck's going on. I can't do anything. Like Omar said, what you have is we got 13 payments of $8.25. We're going to get those for 13 years, and we want an 11.2% return. So you have an annuity. Like you said, we have an ordinary annuity, okay? So then we just got to calculate what's the present value or the price today, okay? This would be your payment. This is N. That's obviously your interest rate or R, rate of return. And we solve for price. And what did you get there? Omar, what did you get on that?
$55.13. $55.13.
There you go. And that's the price of the stock. Bethany, does that help you out? Does that make sense? Kaylee, does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. I entered it in my calculator and I got something different. I got oh wait, just kidding. I got it that time. I must have done something wrong. Sorry.
Never mind. We're good. Okay. All right. Is everybody else good? Does everybody see why that's an annuity?
I see why that's an annuity, but my thing is, I guess just reading these problems, like, I guess just what's a good way to tell whether you need the formula or just doing the time value money? With this case, it is because it's an annuity, right? And so the timeline just, okay.
Part of it, you have to look at what variables are given. And Kaylee, like you said, you were looking at the equation. PO is D1 over R minus G. Well, here we had a dividend, but it's a constant dividend, right? So when we heard that it's going to pay a constant dividend, one of the thought processes we could have had was preferred stock, okay? But then we hear that we know with the preferred stock, though, is there an end date to stock?
No.
No, it's a perpetuity, right? Or it goes on into perpetuity. So perpetuity, preferred stock, we could have been thinking along those equations, but then we realized, well, wait, it stops after 13 years. So that takes the perpetuity and preferred stock off the table, right? So
Yeah.
The main thing, Kaylee, is just look at the variables that are given and then kind of work through them, or see, does that fit what we have? And Unfortunately, like you said, here, we didn't have certain things, so we knew we couldn't use our Gordon growth model or dividend growth model on this problem. Okay?
Right. Okay, thank you.
All right. Everybody good? Any other questions on that? Beth, how you doing? Is your calculator giving you all the right answers this time?
Yeah, I actually, this one, it's starting to make a lot more sense now that I understand the like time value thing.
Okay, good. Okay, let's go on to number 8 then. So 8, and talking about preferred stock, here we go. So we have a value of preferred, Bedecker, whatever, has an issue of preferred stock outstanding. It pays 340 dividends, so we know 340 is the dividend. Okay, every year into perpetuity. The issue currently sells for $91, and they're looking for what is the rate of return? Well, with the preferred stock, we know the price equals the dividend over the rate, right? So 91 equals 340 over the rate. So we just have to solve for R. And what do we get for a rate of return here?
I got 3.74%.
Yes, Kirsten, thank you. 3.74%. Okay, is everybody good there? All right. Let's look at number 9. So in 9, we have 3 different companies. We have red. I'm going to use green to represent the yellow company because it's hard to see. Yellow is hard to see on that board, right? Okay. In all 3 cases, all 3 stocks are going to pay a dividend of $3.65 next year. So that's D1. So we have $3.65. Oops. We know growth rate's 4% on each of the companies. The red company wants an 8% return. The yellow company wants an 11% return. And the blue company wants a 14% return on that investment. So what's the price of the red stock here?
I got $91.25.
Yes, ma'am. Very good, Kayla. $91.25. What about the yellow company?
I got $52.14.
Okay, Madison, very good. 52.14. All right. And last but not least, the blue one.
I got 36.50.
36.50. Good job, Victor. Okay, so there's the prices of our stock. Okay. Then it says, what do you conclude about the relationship between the required return and the stock price? So what do you notice here? What's going on?
As the return increases, the stock price decreases.
Great, Kaylee. Good observation. Why?
That I'm not 100% sure of.
That's
It's
okay.
how we work with cash flows, right? It's like the lower, what was it? I think I wrote it down. Yeah, the higher the discount rate, the lower the present value of cash flows.
Yeah, this goes back to time value of money, Kaylee, what we just talked about in chapters 5 and 6, right? All things equal, the greater the discount rate or the greater the interest rate, the lower my present value, okay? So look at this. So with company R, we want an 8% return. And then we go to company or the yellow company, our return, we go from 8% to 11%. So a 3% increase in the return, but a couple of things I want you to get from this. The same change in the rate of return, right? But look at the drastic effect on the price. What happens to the price from red to yellow? Almost cut in half, isn't it? I mean, that's a big change going from $91 to $52, right? We have another 3% change going from the yellow company to the blue company. And look what happens. So as our interest rate gets bigger, the effect on the present value gets a little bit smaller each time. It's not as drastic, but we went from $52 to $36, okay? So a $16 change there. This also explains something else about risk and reward too. So what's the relationship between risk and reward? The higher the risk, the bigger the reward we want, right? Well, the only way to get that bigger reward is to have the lower present value on our investment. Does that make sense? Does that help out? Okay. Everybody good there? Any questions there? Okay, Kaylee, does that help?
Yes, thank you.
All right, good. All right, so let's look. 12, I'm not going to worry about benchmark. I don't have a benchmark problem for you on the exam. So I'm not going to have you work a problem that you're not going to have to worry about on the exam. I don't want to throw a wrench in your studies. Okay, so let's go to 15. And Omar, this is what you had a question on, right? Okay, so excuse me. So we're talking about Metallica Bearings, young startup company. Now, no dividends are going to be paid over the next 9 years because the firm needs to plow that money back into earnings to fuel growth. Okay. So if we look at it on a timeline, okay, for 9 years, nothing's happening here. Then in year 10, we're going to get a dividend of what is it, $17? Okay. And then from there on, they're going to increase the dividend. So G is going to be 3.9% from there on, right? Okay. And we want a 12.5% return on the stock. And what we're looking for is our current price. Okay. So as we look at our timeline here, given the information that we have, what can we solve for?
The price in year 9.
Exactly, Kirsten. So now we can get our price in year 9. We know P9 equals our dividend in year 10 over R minus G. So we have 17 over 0.125 minus 0.039. And Kirsten, did you work that out? Do you have that price?
Yeah, I got 197.67.
Okay, so 197.60 what?
7.
67?
Mm-hmm.
So now what do we need to do?
Find the present value of that.
Yeah, we just discount that back to today. Okay, so this would be future value. There's N, and there's your interest rate. Okay, and did you have that number also, Kirsten?
I got 68.48.
There you go. So you're, what is it? 2 for 2, 3 for 3, whatever that was. Okay. So you got the assist and the score. Good job. What do you play, by the way?
Center back.
I think I asked you that before, didn't I? I must have totally forgot. I can't remember if I did or not. Okay.
I don't think so.
So Omar, does that help you out there?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got it all. I was just wanting more practice with like maybe another question.
Okay.
I'm visualizing these.
and that's why putting them on a time, I'm a very visual person. If I put on, I can see it. Whereas if I read it, it's just a bunch of words and it kind of mashes all together, right? Put it on a timeline, it kind of spreads out and it's like, oh, now I can see what I need to do. So that's why I encourage you guys to do timelines. Let's look at 16. We'll do another one here. Okay. Again, we have non-constant dividends, right? So this company has an odd dividend policy. They just paid a dividend of $2.75 per share. They will increase the dividends by $4.50 a share for each of the next 5 years, and then never pay a dividend again. We want an 11% return on the company's stock. So how much would we pay today? Okay. So again, we're going to start out with our timeline. So for the next, I guess, 5 years, right? They just paid 275 out here, so this is D0. Okay. They're going to increase it 450 a year for the next 5 years. So add 450 to that, and we get 725 is the next dividend, right? We add 450 to that, we get 11 or the 450. So that's 1175, not 1150. I'm sorry. Okay, 450 again, we get 1625, 2075, and then 2525. Is everybody good? Everybody see where I got the dividends? Okay, now what do we need to do? Now we have to,
Find all the present values and add them up.
there you go. Okay, we got to discount all these, bring them back and add them up. And our rate of return again was 11%. Okay. So is everybody good on where we go or how the next step there? So what do we get for a total on that one? Actually, I think that was it right there. No, that wasn't. So we could do this, let's see, make sure periods per one. Yeah, that's one. So 725 is future, 11 and 1. I can just compute present value, 653. Okay. 1175, 2, 954. $11.88. $13.67. And $14.98, $95, depending on how you rounded that. We total all that up, you should get like 56, 60, depending on the rounding. Maybe it's 59 or 61, something like that, depending on how you rounded those. Is everybody good there? Okay, did that help you out, Omar? Is that good?
Sure. I'll go over it again later.
So would you add DO into your final total, or would you only add the totals for all the dividends that you got the present value for?
Yeah, Wilson, we just calculate the total for the future dividends. We're discounting those back.
Okay.
Okay. Namely because that 275 dividend was already paid, right? So that can't come into our calculations at all.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Does that help you out, Wilson?
Yeah, it does, especially since it says that the dividend was just paid. It's asking how much will you pay for the share today. So
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
that makes sense.
Okay, good. How do you guys feel about those? Everybody good? Okay. All right. Any questions? Anything you guys want to go over real quick about the homework problem?
This isn't about the homework problem, but I saw in the study guide a mention of like Moody's, and I saw that on the PowerPoint, but I don't remember specifically going over that. I just wanted to check about
Over
that.
Moody's?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that. Let's talk about that right now, okay? So one of the things, unfortunately, with that one day, it was in the videos for chapter 7. We missed that day because of the weather, right? So what Moody's is, and this is on page, I want to say 211. Let me double check. Yeah, Kaylee, if you'll look at page 211 in your book, okay? This goes to bond ratings, okay? So with bond ratings, there's 2 big companies that do bond ratings. One is Standard & Poor's, the other is Moody's. Their rating system is very similar. They go from the strongest rating of AAA. The only difference is Standard & Poor's uses all capital letters. Moody's uses a mixture of capital and lowercase letters. So AAA is the strongest company. Companies that have been around, have big cash reserves, no chance of them going into bankruptcy, even in hard financial times, right? So if they're going to issue a loan, Kaylee, you know that that bond is not going to go bankrupt and not be able to pay you your interest or the face value, par value of the bond, okay? So companies like that get the AAA rating. On the other end of the scale is new startup companies. They get the lowest rating, a D rating, okay? High probability that company is going to go into bankruptcy, not survive if we have financial difficulty. You know, that might be something like some of these green energy companies that we talked about. Burgeoning industries, lots of players in the beginning of it. They're either going to get bought out or they're going to just not make it, right? So companies at that end of the spectrum, if they come out with a new bond, one, they aren't going to be able to demand a very high price. But also, since it's a big risk in investing in that company, like we said earlier, big risk, big reward, right? So they can't demand a high price, but investors are going to ask for a higher coupon rate on that bond. Whereas if you invest with a company like Coca-Cola or Ford, those companies have been around a long time. They have big cash reserves. Chances are they aren't going to go bankrupt. Those companies can demand a higher price for their bond and give a lower coupon rate because you know if you invest in that company, they're going to be there to pay you the whole time. Okay. So that's what the rating is in dealing with Moody's. It's just the rating on that scale from, you know, very strong company to a very weak company. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So while we're there, let's go ahead and talk about the exam for a few minutes, okay? The exam is 45 questions total, okay? Chapter 7 has 26 questions. Of those 26 questions, 8 are problems. So that means 16 are concept, definitions, and things like that, okay? Chapter 8 has 19 questions, 7 of those being problems, okay? So 45 questions total. You have about 15 problems, 30 concept questions, okay? So let's talk about chapter 7.
I have a question about the concept questions.
Yeah.
So where would be the best place to kind of find a study guide for those? Because I've learned with this class, you do a lot more of the problems during like our lecture time. So what would be a good resource for getting really good knowledge of the concepts?
Look back in your notes, because usually whenever there's a concept question, I usually tell you guys, hey, you need to highlight this or star this in your notes, right? Because this is an important concept you need to grasp. And some of the concept questions we review while we're doing the problems, like in chapters 5 and 6, when we were talking and looking at, when we were calculating the future value, we kept time the same and we changed interest rates. Then we changed interest rates and kept time the same. So during that problem, that was an important concept that you needed to grasp while we worked that problem. So the best part would be to go back into your notes and look at those. Does that help you out, Matt?
Kind of, because the last exam, like even though I had notes, there was still some questions that were concept multiple choice questions that I just didn't remember from, yeah, there was like a lot of them like that. That's what I was
Uh,
just
if
asking.
if it helps you, I usually make Quizlets. Like I'll go through the study guide and just look at the conceptual type of stuff and make Quizlets, and you can do like a bunch of study games and stuff with that. That's like the best way that I've found to help remember.
There you go. So reach out to Kaylee. Maybe she'll help you with some of that. All right. So chapter 7, we talked about bonds, right? Now remember with the bonds, and Matt, this goes to somewhat to your question. Some of the concept questions might be definitions, right? I said in chapter 7 there is a lot of definitions. Okay. Specifically during the lecture, we talked about coupon rate, maturity, face value, par value, yield to maturity. Those were the ones we kind of covered in the lecture. But there are a lot of others in there that you probably need to take a look at. You know, like what's an indenture? That being the contract of the bond, and that states all the stipulations of the bond, right? We calculated, you know, present value, payment, coupon rate. We calculated interest rate, yield to maturity. We calculated N, time to maturity, things like that. Lots of vocabulary in this chapter, okay? We talked about the bond ratings that Kaylee just mentioned earlier. So page 211, look at the bond ratings. There are different types of bonds, government bonds, corporate bonds, floating rate bonds. We talked about that during the problems. Actually, we talked about some floating rate bonds when we were in chapter 8, talking about some stocks and things.
So what should we know about I'm sorry, about the bond ratings specifically? I know that there's the two different types that typically Moody and S&P that rate bonds, and then like you said, the big companies and like a newer company has a harder time getting rated. But like conceptually, what about them should we just know everything about bond rating and about like the two different ones and about how it's different for bigger and smaller companies? Or
yeah, the bond rating there is really just one page. So if you just read that one page, Wilson, you'll be in good shape.
okay.
Basically, the two different companies, you know, strong companies have a AAA bond. You know, what do you get with a AAA bond? Well, generally, you're going to get a higher price and a lower coupon because they're stable. They can demand a higher price, right? I mean, think about it. Who invests in bonds? Generally, it's retired folks who want a guaranteed steady income, right? So those higher rated bonds are going to have that steady income. They aren't going to miss out on paying coupon payments. They aren't going to go bankrupt. So they can demand a higher price for their bond, and they can give you a lower return knowing, hey, that's guaranteed money, right? Versus a startup company, you know, if you start Wilson McKinney Solar Power, well, you're starting up, chances are you might not make it. So you're not going to be able to demand a high price from investors, and investors are going to demand a higher rate of return for taking that risk of giving you that loan, right? So there's always some give and take with these bonds, with bond ratings. But the bond ratings goes from 211 to 212. So it's just that one page there, okay? Remember we talked about zero coupon bonds, and we made some notes on that during the lecture. I made specific mention of that in the notes. Then we got into the Fisher effect, and you remember that 1 plus the nominal rate equals 1 plus the real rate times 1 plus inflation, right? We calculated all three of those variables. Probably want to know that stuff too. How did we calculate nominal rate, the real rate, the inflation rate? Okay. I didn't get into a whole lot on the bond markets. Unlike the stock market that has a physical exchange, the bond market's over the counter. So we didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about that. We did talk about the interest rates on the figure 7.5 on page 227. The interest rates from 1800 to about 2016. We talked about that. Short-term versus long-term rates and volatility, if you remember that. And in that, Matt, we were talking about, you know, what's the effect of interest rate risk on different bonds. And that went into problem 19 and 20 in chapter 7, how we looked at a bond that had a lower coupon rate and compared the two bonds. One had a 3%, one had a 9% coupon. And one problem, the other problem, we looked at one matured in 3 years versus one that matured in 20 years, and how changes in interest rates affected both those bonds. Okay, so you might want to take a look back at that. And that was pretty much it for chapter 7. Then we got into chapter 8. And again, with chapter 8, there's 19 questions, 7 problems. We talked about common stock, the difference between common stock, preferred stock, voting, proxy voting. We talked about, constant dividend versus constant growth dividend versus non-constant dividends, and how to calculate each of those. Preferred stocks, and then we got into the stock market, the stock exchange, dealers and brokers and things like that. So questions, what kind of questions you guys have? Anything? Now, don't forget on As You Learn, you've got the study guide here, okay? Also, if you're wanting to know whether or not you have these principles down and can work with the principles, here's some extra stock problems on chapters 8. And also there's extra problems for bonds on chapter 7. Now remember, on these two, I don't show you how to answer them, but I give you the answer at the bottom. So that way you know if you got it right or not. Look at the bottom of those pages. The detailed solutions for these Moodle problems, questions right here, there's the solutions for that. So on these, and like the stock problems, again, the answer is at the bottom of the page. It's real small, so you may have to blow that up, but that'll give you the correct answer to see if you got it right, okay? I highly recommend you guys do that. Do those problems. Like I said, in the videos here, if you look at the videos, these are the different sections of the chapter. If you want to go through those, and again, I will add this to that group of videos, okay?